There comes a time in every woman's life when she must look in the mirror, lift her chin, and reclaim the parts of herself she gave away just to be loved. There comes a moment quiet still, yet full of thunder, when she decides to no longer dance for crumbs nor perform for false affection. That moment is holy. You see, there are people in this world who will dress manipulation in silk and call it love. They will charm you with borrowed words, decorate their wounds with your empathy, and feed on the sweetness of your spirit until you are left bitter with confusion. And when you finally begin to see the game, when the fog starts to lift, they will twist, cry, rage, do anything to keep you playing. But a queen, awakened and aware, does not fight fire with fire. She does not scream to be heard. She speaks one sentence with calm truth. And that sentence does not shout, it shakes. Not the ground beneath her feet, but the illusion beneath theirs. This is for every soul who has stared into the eyes of a narcissist and lost pieces of themselves in the reflection. For the woman who is ready not to argue, but to exit with grace, not to rage, but to rise. This is the sentence that does not need to be shouted, only spoken. And once it is, the spell is broken. Anger is loud. It flares and burns and crackles like fire. It demands to be heard. It shakes the walls. It splits the silence. But clarity, clarity is something else entirely. Clarity is quiet. It does not beg. It does not plead. It does not raise its voice. It simply arrives like morning light, soft but unrelenting. It shines on things you've been too afraid to see and lays them bare. And in that light, the game is over. For too long, you were told to question your own knowing. You were trained to doubt what your soul whispered to you in the dark. You were made to believe that truth must always be shouted, must always come with rage, with trembling hands and shattered hearts. But no truth, when it has matured in silence, needs no fury. Clarity is sharper than any scream. It slices clean. It is the scalpel, not the sword. The manipulator fears many things, but most of all, they fear the moment you see them clearly. Not through tears, not through trembling hope, not through longing or anger, but clearly, coldly, calmly. When you see who they are without the mask, without the charm, without the noise. When your eyes stop searching for excuses and start seeing patterns. When your voice no longer wavers, but simply states what is. That is the moment they lose control. Because clarity cannot be argued with. It is not emotional, it is not dramatic, it is a mirror held up without a word. And in that reflection, the narcissist sees not power, but exposure. They see the one thing they cannot survive, your certainty, your awareness, your detachment. You do not need to accuse. You do not need to justify. You do not need to participate in their theater of confusion. When you are clear, you are untouchable. You are no longer in the web. They cannot trap what refuses to dance. They cannot twist what refuses to bend. Your clarity is the closing of the door without a slam. It is the exit without a backward glance. It is the unspoken truth that cuts deeper than any insult, deeper than any revenge. It is in your stillness that they begin to unravel. It is in your calm refusal to engage that they panic. And it is in your clarity that they see they have no power left, not because you shouted, but because you finally stopped explaining. There is a silence that breaks the soul, yes. The silence of fear, the silence of being erased, the silence that follows too many compromises. That silence is not what we speak of here. No, beloved, we speak of another kind of silence, the kind that is deliberate, the kind that is sacred, the kind that is sovereign. Your silence is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is not you turning your back on truth. It is truth sitting calmly inside you, too full to spill, too mighty to be wasted on ears that only hear themselves. You have come to understand that words are energy, and your energy is no longer available to feed the insatiable hunger of manipulation. You see, the narcissist fears silence more than fury, because fury gives them fuel. Fury is fire to their drama, a sign they still have control. It tells them you are still tethered to the story, still reacting, still dancing inside the chaos they created. But silence is the signal that the play is over and the actor has walked off the stage. not in defeat, but in liberation. You no longer explain, no longer plead to be understood, no longer reach into your chest to hand your heart over for someone else to validate. You are no longer in the business of proving yourself, and that terrifies them. Because a woman who no longer needs to be heard to know she's right is untouchable. A woman who can sit with her own truth without shouting it is powerful beyond measure. Your silence is not absence, it is presence distilled. It is presence with no need for permission. You are still here, standing in full dignity, refusing to engage in chaos. You are not giving up, you are choosing peace. You are not submitting, you are reclaiming your power, drawing it back from the abyss where you once tossed it just to keep the peace. There is a kind of silence that makes liars tremble, because it cannot be spun, cannot be baited, cannot be dragged back into the storm. You become the calm they cannot reach. You become the mirror they cannot crack. Your refusal to speak is not because you have nothing to say, but because what you know no longer needs to be spoken to those who will not hear it. And so you say nothing, not because you have been silenced, but because you have chosen the higher ground. Because you know that not every battle deserves your roar, and not every wound deserves your tears. Your silence is not empty. It is full of wisdom, of knowing, of resolve. It speaks louder than all their noise ever could. There is a war that rages quietly in the hearts of many women, a war to be seen, to be believed, to be enough. From childhood, from the world, from broken lovers and louder voices, the message was whispered, you must earn your value. You must be more, do more, give more, lose more, suffer more just to deserve love. Just to be allowed to rest. Just to be worthy of staying. And so you performed. You bent until you broke. You dimmed your fire so others would not feel the heat. You explained your soul in small words to people who never came to understand. You spent years trying to convince people who were committed to misunderstanding you that you are kind, that you are good, that you are enough. But let me say it plain. Let me say it with the weight of every woman who ever learned to carry herself in silence. You do not need to prove your worth, not to a narcissist, not to someone who confuses power with love, not to those who only see your reflection through the mirror of their own brokenness. Your worth is not a debate. It is not a question to be answered, not a prize to be won, not a vote to be cast. It does not rise or fall with someone's approval. It does not vanish because someone turned their back on you. Your worth is older than their opinion. It was carved into you by God, by the universe, by the ancestors who walked before you and whispered your name into the wind. A narcissist will have you believing that your value depends on how well you serve their chaos. They will make you feel that unless you explain every feeling, agree with every falsehood, defend your every breath, you are somehow guilty. You are somehow unworthy. They want you to think love is something to be earned through sacrifice and silence, but that is not love. That is control dressed in affection's clothing. You do not owe anyone an explanation for who you are. You do not have to rehearse your trauma for them to believe you. You do not need to argue with people who are committed to confusion. The moment you stop trying to convince them of your worth is the moment you begin to walk like the queen you already are. Quiet, whole, undeniable. And oh, how that frightens them, because they can no longer play God in your story. They can no longer write the script where they are the hero and you are the pleading child. When you step back and say with your being, not your mouth, I know who I am, and I no longer need you to confirm it, you remove the stage from beneath their feet. Your worth does not increase because they say you're good today. Your worth does not disappear because they scowl or withdraw or rage. You do not become less just because someone lacks the eyes to see, and you certainly do not become more just because someone claps louder today than they did yesterday. No, you are, and that is enough. A sentence, when spoken from the marrow of your truth, is no longer just a collection of sounds. It becomes a blade, a boundary, a breaking of chains. It becomes a declaration, an ending, a beginning. A sentence like that does not rise from the lips, it rises from the soul. It carries the weight of every silent moment you endured. It carries the echo of every time you were gaslit, minimized, or made to feel small for simply having a voice. It is not noise, it is power made audible. You see, some people speak in circles. Some speak to confuse, to dominate, to dazzle with distraction. But when a woman who has been silent too long finally speaks one sentence rooted in clarity, it cuts through the fog like lightning through a storm. The narcissist, the manipulator, the master of emotional illusion, they rely on your confusion, your willingness to explain, your desperation to be understood. But when you speak a sentence that is born of awakening, not anger, it stuns them. Because such a sentence is not performative. It's not bait. It's not thrown into the air to see what sticks. It's measured, still, final. It doesn't need backup. It doesn't require a crowd. It does not plead. It simply is. And when that sentence is spoken, it's as if the very atmosphere shifts. You can feel it. A hush falls not out of fear, but out of awe. Because that sentence doesn't tremble. It knows what it's doing. It knows where it lands. A true sentence of power does not come from a place of revenge. No, it is too elegant for that. It comes from a place of emancipation. It comes after the war inside you has gone still, after the ache has burned down into embers. You are not trying to win anymore. You are not trying to be liked or forgiven. You are simply stating a truth that liberates you, and that, my love, is terrifying to someone who survives off your confusion. When you say the sentence, the one that comes without apology, without rage, without stutter, they will feel it before they understand it, because it is not a sentence crafted for them. It is not tailored to their feelings or fragility. It is not a line in their drama. It is for you. It is from you. It is you stepping outside the script they handed you and writing the first line of your own story. They may scoff. They may laugh. They may accuse you of being cold, cruel, or crazy, but they are only reacting to the sound of the spell breaking, because the sentence has done what all their manipulation could never prevent. It pierced the illusion. It drew a line between what was and what will never be again. And while they may still speak after you, they will no longer be speaking through you. That sentence rewrites the air. It says, I see now, I know now, I am done now. And even if those words are not what you say aloud, they are the foundation beneath whatever you do choose to say. That foundation cannot be shaken. So do not underestimate what a single sentence can do. It can be the quiet moment the tides change. It can be the whisper that brings a house of cards to its knees. It can be the softest sound in the room and the one they never forget. There is a game some folks play, and oh, how well they play it. A game of masks and mirrors where love is a transaction and affection comes with fine print. A game where your pain is used as currency and your confusion is their comfort. This is not a game with rules. It is a game with traps. Every word you say becomes twisted. Every truth you offer becomes a tool they wield against you. And for too long you played. Not because you didn't know better, but because your heart kept hoping it wasn't really a game. You wanted it to be love. You wanted it to be healing. So you stayed trying to speak clearer, trying to love harder, trying to meet them where they could never meet you. But what you didn't know was that the very act of playing, responding, defending, explaining, reacting was the thread keeping their illusion stitched together. They didn't need to win the argument. They just needed you to keep showing up to it. But freedom, dear heart, does not come when you win the game. It comes when you walk away from it. When you put down your need to be right, your hunger to be understood, your ache to be chosen. That's when the chains fall off. Because you see, the game was never about truth, it was about control. And the moment you stop playing, the moment you withdraw your energy from the performance, you rob them of their favorite audience. Freedom begins when you stop answering questions that are designed to provoke. It begins when you let the silence stretch without filling it. It begins when you realize that your value was never up for debate. You stop trying to be the exception to their pattern, and you start seeing the pattern for what it is. You stop waiting for them to change and start remembering that you can. They will try to pull you back with sweet words, with sudden warmth, with false apologies that smell like old stories. But you will feel it in your bones, this time that old familiar script. And this time you will not pick it up. You will not reread the chapter that almost broke you. You will not give them a stage for their sorrow, nor a seat at your sacred table. You will let them speak if they must, but you will not answer. You will let them provoke if they try, but you will not react. Because you are no longer playing. You are no longer trying to be the peace in their war. You are no longer trying to prove your goodness to someone who profits off your guilt. That's the shift. That's the moment. That is the taste of freedom, bittersweet at first, but rich, real, revolutionary. And they will feel it not because you said something cruel, but because you said nothing at all. Not because you stormed out, but because you walked away with dignity. Not because you proved your worth, but because you remembered it. In that remembering, in that stillness, in that holy refusal to engage, you will find the beginning of your freedom.